What's up, everybody? Brotrio here, and we've been doing a lot of Zelda content for its 35th anniversary. We're not going to leave out Metroid. It's Metroid's birthday, too. Metroid's the big 3-5, so we're going to go ahead and hit up some Metroid with our hype train for Metroid Prime 4. Now, originally, we were going to do something for Dread, but Nintendo's told us everything there is to know about Dread. Like, I don't want any more. I'm very pumped, and I'm glad you're marketing it.
There were a couple of surprises that would have been nice.
Also, it dawned on us when we were planning this, Dread is very soon.
Yeah.
It's a lot sooner than I thought it was. So, it's coming out, like, just around the corner. So, obviously, way too late for Nintendo to see our video. Obviously, they're waiting for us for ideas, so we gotta do it for Prime 4.
That's why Prime 4 is taking so long. We've only made, like, one hype train about it.
Exactly. I mean... They're not going to make a Metroid game and watch, so we got to get this started.
So this list takes inspiration from one of our Zelda lists, actually, because we like doing that list where we take aspects from each game in the franchise, what we like, what we don't like, and want to see that in a future installment. So Metroid 1 was a lot easier to do than Zelda, just from sheer amount of games.
Oh, yeah.
And it also really pissed me off looking at, like, the release dates and stuff. Like, Other M came out in 2010.
Yeah.
We're just now getting another mainline Metroid game?
That's not a remake or a spin-off.
11 years later? Are you kidding me? Like, man.
It's even worse, because it was 2007 since the last universally agreed on good game, too.
Ugh.
And it was 2002 for Metroid 4.
Yeah. It's wacky.
It's coming up on 10 years, or 20 years.
But one good thing
Fusion.
about Metroid franchise is all the games may not be in release order, but it is only one timeline, thank God, so it's much less confusing than Zelda and stuff like that. So we're going to move on with the first Metroid that started off what we liked, what we didn't like, what we want to see in Prime 4 taken from this entry. So start with what we don't like. Get negatives out of the way first, and on a positive note. And honestly, there's not too much to say in both columns for the first one. The first one started it all. There was no expectations for it. So there's not really anything to say good or bad about it. But I guess the main thing we would say is bad about it would be the enemy designs. Because obviously 8-bit, it's limited. But Ridley's design is very ugly. And even if you go into the concept art,
Kraid looks like an armadillo with
it's not better.
Kraid looks like like a mullet armadillo. Like he's just got hair instead of a shell.
And I will say he's like the height of Samus too.
Yeah, they're all teeny tiny. Kraid's design though translates to 8-bit. Ridley's did not, because his concept art, he has like 6 eyes. He's this weird looking, actually space looking creature that looks like a real alien. But I much prefer the pterodactyl space dragon pirate, because that's Ridley. That's the Ridley I love. That's the Ridley that beat my ass in Super Metroid, and now I use that Ridley to beat ass in Smash Bros. Ultimate, and it's awesome. But what we really liked from Metroid 1 was that you could do, and this was a glitch in the first one.
Yeah, it's not on purpose.
But there were alternate paths and rooms you could go into, because somehow the game launched in a glitch status that you could bomb walls that aren't supposed to be there. So you could just get in rooms that are just supposed to take up space or something to fill in the actual black parts of the map. But
like you
can go in there.
It's a speedrunner's like wet dream.
Yeah,
because you can skip entire bosses.
Yeah,
you can skip entire sections of the map.
Seems like you can just lay down a bomb for a lot of them instead of like hitting Z a lot and doing backflips and going through walls like in Mario 64.
Yeah. Also, a secondary one that's a little less, because it's only happened in this game that I can think of. It happened in Prime a little bit, but that's first person, so not as important.
I mean, you've got fusion mode in a few games, but that's an actual difficulty setting.
But alternate costumes, it's really cool.
Yeah,
because
the classic Justin Bailey outfit.
You can run around in leotard. It's awesome. You're just a girl shooting stuff out of your fists, but who cares? It's cool. I would love to see that more in Metroid. Obviously, the Primes, like we talked about, is first person, so you get like a different arm cannon shade, maybe a different hand on your arm cannon, but still, like, it's a cool touch. I'd like to see more of it. Maybe if it's just like layered armor, if you don't like the gravity armor for some reason, you can go back to the power suit and be scrawny Samus instead of Varia suit Samus. Like,
or maybe this could be a continue game plus type of thing where you're like, well, I'm replaying it, so I'm gonna be dressed stupid.
Yeah, but
like,
that's something like that. You get a little plushy Metroid hat you could wear the whole time and look like an idiot.
Yeah.
It'd be great.
Now we're on to what has pretty much always been one of my favorite Metroid games, Metroid 2. And there is some negatives, though, and I will freely admit that this is not great. There's barely any bosses in that game that are not Metroids.
Let me interrupt real quick. We are counting the remakes separate. I forgot to mention that for the first one.
Yeah.
So, original Metroid, that's it. Original Samus Returns, that's it. We'll cover Zero Mission and Return of Samus. I probably mix those up. But remakes we'll cover
as
individually.
Yeah.
So, back to the Samus 2.
Yeah, it would be easy to be like, oh, I don't like it grayscale, but that's a hardware limitation. We're not talking about that.
Same with the no map. That was a hardware limitation. Samus being a giant,
having
also
more bosses, because the only boss was that armadillo thing for Spring Ball.
Yeah, that's the only one that wasn't Metroid that I can think of.
I'm pretty sure everything else was a Metroid.
Just Metroids.
Now, that leads me into the positive, though. Metroid LIFECYCLE has always been an interesting thing that, for the longest time, this was the only game that referenced it.
Yeah.
We had a little bit in Fusion and a little bit in Other M, but generally
randomly
speaking,
put it in a Queen Metroid in Other M. That's like the biggest redeeming factor of it, that they touch back on the Metroid evolutions. They're so cool.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know why they don't do them.
And like, we're not saying it has to be like the same evolutions. Like, it doesn't have to be Sigma Kappa Pi again.
Oh no!
We can have alternate evolutions coming in. That'd be cool.
Gamma, Zeta, and Omega. It was such a cool idea that it's just like, okay, well now they're big, they're scary, and sometimes they breathe fire or have some kind of elemental attack, and it's like, well, they really didn't used to have that, so I have to fight this in a completely different way now.
And let me paint you a picture of what could truly happen in Metroid Prime 4. So go back to Metroid Prime 3. You have, I believe they're called the Fission Metroids. They phase through matter, and it's really scary. You go into the ear, and they just come out of the walls at you. Could you imagine a Fission Omega Metroid, like, coming out of the walls like a freaking Demogorgon at you? Like, oh my god. That would up Metroid to a whole other level of horror and survival, and just make me pee my pants in both glee and fear at the same time. And now we go to my favorite Metroid game of all time. It's the glorious Super Metroid. Now, there's not a lot bad to say about this one, and it's very nitpicky, but the selecting of items is a little bit of a chore in that one, and it's somewhat due to hardware limitations, but for this one, we're letting that kind of slide because we don't have anything else bad to say about it.
It's like you have to hit select like
8 times.
Everything's based on select.
It's a lot.
And it makes sense.
If you had more contextual, like weapon swapping, like L and R maybe did something.
It's just,
I mean, nowadays we have the bumpers, we have ZL, ZR, L and R, we have all the buttons to do everything.
Like Super Nintendo only had a certain amount of buttons.
Yeah, and I get that. But now we can swap through powers with the shoulder buttons like in Mega Man X or something like that. So this obviously will more than likely be fixed.
It's a big nitpick. But
moving into the positives from Super Metroid, these would definitely be the alternate uses of powers. So you have the obvious ones that you have to do at some point in the game. I think it's necessary. I don't know. It might just be to get stuff. But the Shine Spark is awesome. You get the speed boots, and you run into this ostrich, and it teaches you how to jump. And you just run, you crouch, and then you fly into the air like Superman.
You have to do a few to
Like
get some. You have to do a few to get some missiles and stuff.
Yeah, I
but
think it's
mostly
necessary for
unnecessary.
100%, but not necessarily for just story.
No,
And
just-
it is.
I don't know.
It's just badass.
Yeah.
It's awesome, and it makes you feel like Superman, but Samus.
Yeah,
And-
there's all kinds of other alternate things, like you can absorb a super bomb and turn it into
Yeah.
health.
The secret moves are what
Yeah.
we really want to see come back. You could do. I do not know the names, but they're different based on what beam you have selected. Like one, you can just absorb a power bomb and fill all your E-tanks and stuff like that. One, you just use the ice beam and you make an ice shield
Oh,
that
one's-
surrounds
Yeah,
you.
that one's called the snowplow. That's
You do a spazer, like missile barrage in the air. You do a wave beam thing where they just keep like bouncing back and forth. There's
Yeah.
a ton of them, and they're all awesome, and they're all secret, and it never tells you about it. And we
Yeah,
want to see more of this.
I don't even remember Nintendo Power mentioning those.
I just found out about them pretty recently in my life, and it blew my mind, and I would love to see it. Maybe don't be as secretive about it since it is Prime 4. Maybe have it hidden behind, like, a lore scan or something like that. You
Yeah.
scan it just like, hey, if you combine a power bomb with ice missile, you get, you know, a frost shatterer or something
yeah.
weird.
Thanks, bird.
Yeah. But that's what we want to see because those are very cool. They change up how you play the game completely once you know about them, and it's just badass. And moving on from my favorite Metroid to a fan favorite Metroid, we go to Metroid Fusion, the Game Boy Advanced Classic.
Previously, the most contentious Metroid game until we get a little further
Yeah.
down.
So the bad from Metroid Fusion, again, it's pretty nitpicky. Most of these will be, but, you know, we gotta play fair. So the bad would be, it's very linear, especially for a Metroid game. It's pretty much, go do this, keep going, and you're at the end. Okay. But there's not as much backtracking as, you know, you may want in a Metroid game. It inspired the whole term Metroidvania and everything. But linearity, it's a little bit more linear than the rest of them, so that's what we're going with for the nitpicks. But the positives, again, I talked about it with the Fission Omega Metroids, but Metroid Fusion is spooky. It's You're getting hunted by the SAX. It does that creepy thing where it just like walks in and like starts scanning you. It has all your powers from Super Metroid, and it uses them. And it just, especially that one scene when it like zooms in on it, and it's still Samus in the suit, but it has no pupils.
Got the dead eyes.
Yeah, dead eyes. It's scary.
Like a doll's eyes.
And then it transforms at the end to just a like Samus-inspired monster. The SAX was very cool how it's tracking you the whole time. It's always just a huge like adrenaline pumping, sweating, fear-driven escape whenever you get to a point with the SAX and you have to just run from it. Most of the time you just sneak around it, but sometimes you just have to run. And it really seems like they're doing this with the Emmys in Metroid Dread, and I really hope they keep that up in Metroid Prime 4.
Now, for the first Metroid Prime game on this hype train, we have the original Metroid Prime. That is my favorite Metroid. Something about Metroid Prime, I don't know, just clicked. It was so good. But the only real negative, and this is not out of left field for Metroid to do, but compared to the other Primes and Fusion and a couple others, there's an extreme lack of narrative. Because pretty much everything's hidden behind the Chozo lore.
Which we love.
We do love that. But comparing it to others down this list, it has so little story. And not having more story is not always a good thing. We'll get to that 2010 one. You know the one I'm talking about. But it just... The story's the most basic in that one compared to the other Primes. You show up and it gives a little blurb at the beginning and you see Ridley and Samus is like, oh god, again? Jumps down to what's it called? The planet Talon?
Talon 4.
Yeah.
Talon 4. Jump down there, start scanning everything, get all the Chozo lore. But the base story was just like, I'm here and everything's dead. But what we want to take The good part, which I think Metroid Prime did better than any of the others, was the music.
Yes!
The music was immersive. It sounded sci-fi, but not like overly techno-y kind of sci-fi.
It is space funk, and it is bumping.
Funk. It was like, it's not quite as funky as Cowboy Bebop Space Funk, but it was pretty funky. That title screen, it came in with the vocals. Oh my god!
The other thing is like each level or each area is distinct too.
Yeah,
because you don't have like musical overlap really.
Exactly.
It's like, oh, I know where I'm at because I can listen.
It both perfectly captures badass, exploratory, beautiful like sights to see and action all in the same game.
It was just one part of that game that was super immersive. Like that's the most immersive Metroid game in my opinion.
100% because of the music. Like when you're in Pandera Drifts, you're bumping along the music, dodging the little baby she-goths, and you stay around in that area because of the music. It's so awesome.
Prime example of good music.
Oh God.
One of the best examples I can think of for a remake done right was Metroid Zero Mission. This is my favorite way that Samus has ever felt in a Metroid game. And I haven't gotten to Fusion yet. I've played Fusion a little, but I'm going through all the Metroids, all the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the mainline Metroids before Dread. And the way Samus feels here, she feels so good to control. She's got a little more weight to her or something. She runs faster. Something is different, and I'm liking it. But that's not what we're talking about, neither here nor there. It's just, I had to get it out.
Also, just getting this out ahead of time, the sprite work in that game is absolutely gorgeous.
It's the best. Now, this might have just been me wanting to be done with it, because I was like, I'm ready to hip-hop to the next ones and play all the Metroids. But it just felt so inconvenient to me the whole time, like anytime I have to go back to get anything, and it's still more convenient than the first Metroid. It's still more convenient than all the early Metroids, except I think Super was a little cooler about going back and having secret pathways to get back to other areas. Unless I'm just stupid, which is a strong possibility. I couldn't find any secret passages or anything in Zero Mission, and I
think it's just the first one basically, where you just have to if you want to go back.
It's the first one without the secret rooms.
Yeah, so if you want to go back, you have to walk there.
Yeah, and it's a nitpick. This is one of my favorite Metroids so far on this playthrough of the series that I'm doing. But to the good thing that we want to see in Prime 4, we want to see stealth sections.
Yeah, the actual Zero Mission was amazing.
The Zero Mission was really cool, and I don't really... Maybe if you make it optional, that'd be better. I don't know. But I would just like to see it again. Samus having to...
sneak around.
Not necessarily stuck in the Zero suit, but maybe? I don't know.
Maybe it's just an enemy. I know
that's the frustration. Is just like if I had my power armor, these guys would be dead already.
Well, it could be. It maybe not even stealth. It could be like the Krill from Gears of War.
Yeah.
There's just like if you go outside, you're gonna get fucked up, and you gotta sneak around and make sure the Krill things don't see you. Like that's kind of what we're talking about. Is like something that can easily one-shot Samus, and a lot of games do that, and it's always really cool.
Yeah. So a little backstory for my year of 2021. I recently played all of the Metroid Prime games. And Metroid Prime 2 Echoes has moved up immensely in my love of Metroid games. It has surpassed Prime 3 in my eyes and is a damn close second to the first one. I don't know why I didn't like it as much back in the day, but when I replayed it this time, I was like, my god, this game is incredible. But the main, bad part about it, and again, super duper nitpicky. Last time we'll say that, by the way, but the boss names are terrible. I mean, this is by far the biggest nitpick you can get. But they're just called Boost Guardian, Dash Guardian, Power Shot Guardian, Missile Guardian, whatever.
Guardians of Ga'Hoole.
Sometimes they have actual names, like Quadraxis is a really cool name, but he's a spider with 4 legs, so he's got a quad axis, so he's Quadraxis. But That's the main reason. The main thing I want is just better names. Like, it doesn't have to be an unpronounceable Cthulhu alien name, but I want it to be somewhat kind of cool, like Vectorizer Sigma or something like that for some robot.
At least something
or
a little bit more creative.
Yeah, but I will say this isn't positive, but the actual bosses stealing Samus's powers and using them, like fighting the Boost Guardian, was very cool. That it's just an ing that's fast as shit, and then you kill it and you get the boost. It's cool to see your power before you get it from an enemy. It kind of made it feel like Mega Man, honestly, in those years to begin with. But this one might be a little controversial and a hot take, but I love the ammo in Prime 2, and I will stand by that until the day I die. Because not only is it cool, because lore-wise, it's awesome, because the Lunamoth tech doesn't quite jive with Samus's Chozo tech, so it consumes ammo instead of being infinite energy. But also,
and in concept, it's cool too, because it's like, okay, well, I need to be careful with these.
Yeah. It creates both like a sense of like almost like a survival horror game, like in Last of Us. You have only a set amount of bullets, and you want to keep those dark ammo because they like muck up the creatures with dark energy and slow them down. Very similar to like the ice beam in the first Prime, and then the light beam is very similar to like I forget what it's called, the fire beam from the first Prime. Set stuff on fire because you're just blasting them with straight up like solar energy, literally like Mega Man. And then you get the Dark Light Beam, which combines both. And it uses both ammos, but it's strong as shit. And it shoots like sound and bullshit at them. It's crazy. But the main thing I like about it is it incentivizes you to keep switching your weapons. Keep on your toes about everything. Like, there are some enemies that only get hurt by dark stuff. There's some enemies that only get hurt by light stuff. And whenever you kill something with the dark beam, you get light ammo. Whenever you kill something with the light beam, you get dark ammo. So it really is like this cool yin-yang synergy thing that I think worked amazingly, and I would love to see it again.
These next two we were debating not even covering because they're so spin-offy. But we decided Metroid doesn't have that many games, so we're going to cover all of it. So what Prime Hunters was a different take on Metroid. It was cool, but the negative for it was just a little shallow compared to what we're used to. What you see is pretty much what you get. It's an arena fighter kind of game.
Kind of like a hero shooter before they were like super popular, honestly.
Yeah, and you know, it's been a long time and we barely even played it when we did, but it's just like, from what we remember, it was like a skeleton of the Metroid we love.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like, still fun.
It was familiar enough, but it barely had that Metroid feel.
Yeah. I will say, they control shockingly well on the DS. Because tapping where to shoot was very similar to like the mouse type computer controls and everything. It's very precise.
And the good part that we would like to see, and it's only been done twice, I think, in all of Metroid,
for the most part,
is other bounty hunters.
Yeah.
Because that and Prime 3 are the only other games with other bounty hunters, I believe. And I think they're all pretty cool. And I like seeing people that like Samus, people that hate Samus, people that are indifferent. It's awesome.
Yeah.
One of them was a space pirate that survived the events of Zebes and was pissed at Samus. I forget his name, but it was cool.
It makes sense because
Silex,
he's out there doing all the big jobs.
Yeah.
Silex did like one thing ever, and he's everyone's favorite. He might be coming back. I mean, that was him following her in the end of Prime 3.
He's the Boba Fett of the Metroid franchise.
Boba Fett. He didn't do anything, but everyone loves him for some reason. That's Boba Fett, and that is Silex. But I want to see more hunters, and it looks like Prime 4 is going to go that way anyway, but we just had to throw it in, because all those hunters were real cool.
And just getting this one out of the way pretty quick, because the positive is also the negative. Metroid Prime Pinball.
Pinball!
Yeah. That's the negative?
It's fun because it's just a little quick pinball game, but also, it's just a pinball game. There's nothing really to go by with that. But we were thinking something kind of like Kirby, where there's the mini games off to the side.
Yeah.
Where you could just play like a pinball version of maybe the Metroid franchise, maybe just one game, maybe the one that maybe it's like a shortened, condensed version of Metroid Prime 4.
Yeah.
We were thinking that it would be how you could unlock some of the gallery stuff. It's like,
Yeah.
it's a menu option. It's not even in the main game.
That'd be a great way to unlock collectibles.
But it's a menu item. It's a remake of Metroid Prime Pinball or whatever. You got to beat it, and you unlock gallery shit.
Yeah, that would be cool. Metroid's never done mini games, really. The closest they really did was in Echoes, you had the multiplayer. So, throw in both on the menu. Who cares? It would be cool.
Yeah.
Like, if I could play pinball and unlock some concept art, I'd do it.
Yeah, or like a jukebox mode or something. I guarantee there'd be a lot of people that was most of what they played was the pinball.
Mm-hmm. I actually would do that, especially on Switch. Like, if I'm taking a dump and I'm like, I'm not going to be able to get a lot of Metroid in. Let me play some pinball. Unfortunately, in my playthrough this year of all the Prime games, this is the one that got marred the most in my eyes. Prime 3 is great, don't get me wrong, but the main negative I have for it is GIMMICK Reliance, because it was on the Wii originally, and it lets you know it, because every enemy just about you fight, for example, there's these one enemies of like this wall of like 9 robots, and then one in the corner will light up, you shoot it, and then one in the middle will light up and you shoot it, and then one in the other corner will light up and you shoot it, and that's how you kill it. So it's all based on motion controls. You also get the grapple beam, which actually is used in a super duper badass way, because Samus uses it offensively and just yanks Space Pirate shields off, yanks armor off. It's awesome. But my left arm got super tired from slamming that nunchuck in the air to try to steal something.
Because it's a cool thing, but when all the enemies have shields, it gets a little less cool.
Yeah, so GIMMICK Reliance is a big one we don't want to see as much. You'll hear us talk about it again on this list. But just know when to, spread it out a little bit. It doesn't need to be all motion controls. It can just be some of it. And then have, just like regular ass gameplay in between. And I'm not even talking about the pointer stuff. I'm just talking about, oh, I need to control my ship. Let me touch this thing, and then whoop, let me put up the throttle, and that makes fast travel not fast when I have to do that. But the good parts, speaking of fast travel, would be the planets, because one, it kind of made Metroid Prime 3 feel a lot bigger than it actually was, because really it's roughly the same as Metroid Prime 1 as far as spatial exploration and stuff goes, but you travel between planets, so it feels more organic in that the biomes would change, because you go to the I don't remember the names, but the lizard planet, and everything's kind of like volcano-y and desert and arid, and then you go to the techno sky planet, and everything's very lofty, cloudy above the skies,
because it's not just separated by a door. Or
I'm telling you, open a door and it's snow time,
and then you open another door and it's lava time, and they do have the snow melted around that door and everything, but traveling through planets would be awesome, and they could even make it that much bigger on the Switch or even a future Nintendo console if it takes longer.
Yeah.
But I think that would be really cool, especially because they can make the planets a little more wide, so it's not just this smallish area here. Also, you explore planets, and you can call down airstrikes, you can call down your ship to pick you up at docking ports, and that creates fast travel points on those planets. So then not only can you leave from there, but you can dock there, and some parts of the planet are sectioned off that you can only access them after you unlock a new dock from a secret path pathway and stuff like that. It's very cool. Leads to a lot more backtracking in Metroid and planet hopping, which is awesome. Also, Hyper Mode is just badass, and I would love to see Samus have her own Super Saiyan mode again, because Hyper Mode is really cool and made me feel awesome.
I feel like coming up with a positive we would like to see again from Other M was harder than coming up with a negative for Super Metroid. I'm not one of these people that just like goes on message boards and shouts to anyone that'll hear me about how bad Other M was, but there's a lot about Other M I didn't like. If I had to narrow it down to one thing, it was the Samus following orders like she was. I completely hated it, and like
her characterization in general, but especially that.
Yeah, like Samus isn't an asshole. Like she's not just gonna be like, "Oh, he said I can't use bombs. I'm using bombs, dick." Like, I mean, she would, have some sort of courtesy about it, but she wouldn't go into a lava place and just be like, "Hey, can I turn on my Varia suit? It's hot in here."
Please.
No, okay, I'll survive until I don't.
Like, and the relationship with Adam, Adam?
Yeah, it was
Malkovich.
The
relationship was a little questionable, a little weird. Anyway, and then she's like wanting to please him by following his. I don't know.
Yeah.
It was odd.
Like,
I just
in concept, it could have been okay if it was just like, hey, you're normally by yourself. Don't forget. Don't use power bombs next to us.
Yeah, like if it's like, just power bombs might take out the whole base. Can you please not do that?
Yeah.
That would have been one thing. Because normally Samus get there like, hey, can you go commit absolute, complete genocide? And she's like, all right. And she goes and does it. But they don't tell her how to do it and what she can and can't do to do it. And it was weird. And he was like, hey, I know you're about to die, but don't use that wave beam.
And then she's just like,
oh, Jesus.
Yeah, she's all angsty and bad and not Samus. Not my Samus.
The good part that I came up with, the cutscenes were gorgeous at the time, and a lot of them were pretty cool. Yeah. Especially that opening cutscene that recreated the ending of Super Metroid.
Hell yeah.
Holy
That's my favorite
shit.
part.
Best part of that game.
Yeah.
So, if we get cutscenes in Prime 4, I'd like them to be pretty and badass like they were in Other M. At least some of them were. Not all of them.
Better voice acting, please.
Yeah.
The baby.
And then we're coming up on another game that we almost didn't even mention. And oddly enough,
to be fair, we never even played this
one.
We
didn't.
True. We skipped it.
So we decided to basically do the same thing we did with Pinball. The positive is the negative. It's a spin-off story. But there's a caveat here. Because we're pretty sure, I mean, of course we'll never know because of how it happened, but if this had come out during Metroid's heyday in the early to mid 2000s, it probably would have been way better accepted.
Yeah, honestly,
that Metroid's future was already in question because nobody liked Other M.
It was 6 years after.
Yeah, 6 years after
Other M. It was a 6-year
M.
drought, and then it was like, oh.
Chibi Federation Force. Hey, here you go. It's on the 3DS, and you're not Samus.
So the negative would, in this, our opinion would be timing, because that was like, oh my god, is Metroid dead?
Mostly, but
because this is not going to sell well, and they're not going to think people like Metroid anymore.
Yeah, because just being a spin-off unrelated to Samus after a drought was really bad timing. But on the plus side, being a side story that's not about Samus could be really cool. And I don't know. Maybe this game is cool. I need to look into it again maybe sometime.
Federation Force had a lot of promise. But it could have been like a chibi Metroid Halo ODST. But it wasn't, and it really showed.
If they were pumping out Metroids like crazy and then Federation Force, it would have been like, well, cool, we'll expand the universe a little bit, alright. But it's like Other M, Bubkiss, and then spin-off, and it was like, oh no.
Yeah. So this really doesn't tie into Prime 4, because that wouldn't be a spin-off. Eventually for the franchise. Let's see some
for the future.
More Hunters spin-offs, too.
Yeah. Origins.
Just in time.
We touched on it a little bit with Zero Mission, but there's another really good remake in this mix, and that's Samus Returns. Oh my god, I loved Samus Returns.
Samus Returns is
I'm a little impartial because I love Metroid 2. But having the Aeon abilities and everything they added into that game, it actually fixed the thing we were talking about. There's extra bosses added into that game.
Yeah.
a lot of them.
You still got
A
the
lot
driller,
more
but you
variety.
also got the driller.
Yeah, like and they tweaked all the Metroids a little bit too, because they're not just like, oh, this one's a little bit bigger. Now they're like, you know, they go and hide, or you have to go find them and seek them out. Maybe you fight. I can't remember if you fight like 2 at once or something.
Not so far.
I know
I'm playing through it right now.
I know they mixed up the numbers a little bit, where the ratio is a little different. But the main negative that they added into that game that is also a positive, they just did it like we said earlier.
Too much.
The melee counter.
Like Gimmick Reliance.
It's awesome because they brought in her move from Smash Brothers, and it's effective. It's great. But not every single enemy needs to do a charge attack at you.
Yeah, because it got to the point where it's just more practical to wait for them to do it rather than shoot them.
Yeah, like if it was just a certain one, like, you know, those bats that come down from the ceiling.
And it looks like Dread's already fixed that.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't think it'll be a thing in Prime 4.
She's got a melee, she's got a kick.
Yeah.
But it's just like...
But it looks more optional in Dread.
Unless you're a sharpshooter, like you're gonna get attacked before you can kill it with the beams. I mean, it's just too much. It happens too often.
So I think the way they could do this in Prime 4 that would kind of help fix it is, one, make it optional. Don't give the lens flare anytime it's happening or anything like that. But have it in Prime 4 where, I guess, if you're doing dual Joy-Cons or whatever, you can swing the left one and hit something. I know I just talked about hating it, but I don't know. I'm not thinking about button controls for it. But have something like that, and then have an upgrade where Samus just gets like this little laser bayonet on the side of her arm cannon that ups the damage or something like that. Just to make Samus a little more badass.
Samus with a bayonet. Holy crap.
Yeah.
That'd be pretty cool. And the main positive, like, the game is awesome, but the main positive is convenience.
Yeah, you can fast travel
Because
everywhere.
Yeah.
Some people don't like that. I love it. I'm like, I've already been there. I don't want to trek back. That's padding to
like
me. I'm fine with it. I know it's Metroid. I know backtracking is part of it. But if I can just get in a bird statue and teleport to another bird statue, I'm going to do it. It's great.
Oh yeah, like it doesn't affect the backtracking at all. It just makes it faster.
Yeah.
And if you can have a game that's completely fine in like 8 hours, why make it 12 hours?
Exactly. Now we're getting into hyper speculation time, because we're going to talk about Dread, but
Yeah. We don't know if Dread's good or bad.
Yeah, like
We don't know what's good or bad about it, but we wanted to include it.
Yeah, Nintendo's given us quite a bit of information on it, so we think we have a pretty good feel of it.
Now, for bad, we hope they don't do in Prime 4 is spoil kind of everything in the marketing, and maybe they didn't. There might be even more twists and turns we're thinking of.
I hope there
Oh
is,
yeah,
But showing
if they'd
Kraid,
have only spoiled half of it, that'd be awesome.
showing
Yeah.
off the Kraid, some of the Chozo fights. I assume those were Chozo fights. The guy with the spear looked like a Chozo, but
Yeah.
then his like head opened up like crazy.
Goopy.
I don't know what's
what
going
that
on
was.
there, but I'm glad Nintendo is pushing the hell out of Metroid. I think Metroid Dread's going to sell very well because of it. But I just don't want to see the whole game before it comes out. And they do that with a lot of games.
Because
They
like
show everything.
there's one example I can think of from one of the more recent trailers that it's like, really, Nintendo? Because it's showing the living Chozo that we've seen in other trailers, and it's like, is this friend or foe? And then his eyes glow red. It's like, okay,
He's foe. He's
yeah,
bad
he's
bird.
definitely a bad bird.
Unless that's a misdirect and there's 2 living Chozos. Because
That-
it could be that
There could be good
Could-
bird.
but they
it
are
could be
showing
bad
a lot.
bird.
It still would be more
'Cause
impactful
in
to find
Samus
out.
Returns,
like,
we did see the bad birds.
I mean, this is off topic, but do you think they're going to like squawk before and after every sentence? They're like,
that's
Samus, you gotta go get this brain and touch it and get a
Oh,
super beam.
I never even thought about that.
oh, they're gonna talk like the
Every time they.
what are those
every time
ugly
they-
things called from Dark Crystal?
Oh, the Skeksis?
Yeah, they're gonna be like the Skeksis.
Now, the good part that we think is going to happen in Dread is it looks like a lot of lore expansion is going on. Because you've got actual live Chozos, which, like, the closest we've come to that, I think, was Prime with the Chozo ghosts. right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
I
because
don't
like
think we've
Samus
ever
Returns
seen
had
that
a lot of lore stuff, but it was all in collectible artwork.
Yeah, and this we're seeing
They got-
Chozos.
They got power
It's-
armor on. It's crazy.
Yeah, they're wearing the same or similar suits to Samus. It's
And if
canonically the 5th Metroid game coming out. The Metroid 4 was 2002, so we're finally getting the 5th one, so that's expanding the lore more, moving the series forward.
And they're talking about it like it's the last game, and they've kind of said it's not the last Metroid game, but they're talking about like, yeah, if they're not lying, they're like, yeah, the Metroids aren't even in this thing; they're gone forever now. I'm like, what in the hell? How are they going to do
They've
this?
been gone forever before.
They said, but they've never. I don't think they've ever marketed it like that.
Yeah, I don't think they have.
And they're also saying that this is the end of the saga that started with Metroid 1. Not the end of the franchise, but it's like, where are they going to go from here?
Exactly.
I mean, they can, but can they even call it Metroid anymore? Because Metroid in the Chozo language translates to Ultimate Warrior. So calling Samus Metroid was actually accurate.
Isn't it
super accurate after Fusion?
Isn't it Ultimate Warrior / like Apex Predator or something?
Yeah, I've heard something like that. It can mean it can supposedly mean Apex Predator as well.
Either way, describes Samus.
Yeah, but it's just like, what's going to happen that caps off a saga that started in 1986? That's what I want to know. It seems like the lore is going to explode, and I really hope I'm right about that.
And that's going to cap off our Metroid hype train of everything we want to see in Prime 4 and beyond, because we love Metroid. It's weird to me that Metroid is such a cult classic, because when you're into it, you hear about it all the time, you see it all the time.
But then you look at the sales numbers and you're like, oh.
God,
the top selling, Breath of the Wild sold more than the whole Metroid franchise. Or something. Like, it's ridiculous.
And it really breaks my heart, because Metroid is so awesome. It's such good games. Super Metroid is almost considered by a good margin to be the best Super Nintendo game of all time. And it pains me to see that it doesn't sell well, so we really think, I mean, not, toot our own horn, but if Nintendo takes our words to heart, we think it'll help the Metroid sales that much more.
No, I think Dread's going to do just fine.
Oh, I think it's going to be fine with Dread, but
honestly, as long as they steer away from other M territory, I'm going to like it. And not to keep shitting on that game, but it's an easy target.
It is.
But that's going to about wrap us up for this video. Let us know what you want to see from Metroid in Metroid, from the past ones and the future ones. And let us know if you liked what we said. And special bonus for you, Metroid minigame from Nintendo Land had gunship combat. We want to see that in it. It wasn't worth its own list, but we want to see it because it was cool and I want it. But that's going to finish us off here at Bro Trio, and we'll catch y'all next time with more videos.